Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Celine. I'm a mental health therapist. I specialise in childhood abuse recovery, SRA and mind control. I'm also a spiritual guide and an energy healer. So in today's video, I am going to talk about healing on your spiritual journey. This is including SRA and mind control as well. And we're going to talk through the kind of steps that you need to take really, and what to expect and how to really embody this full healing. So healing is about changing the stories and identity that we tell ourselves. So oftentimes when we're a child and we go through abuse, we take on that trauma as though there's something wrong with us. A child will learn to hate themselves before they will hate a parent, even an abusive parent. So we take on all that guilt and shame and everything, and we grow up with that, and this is what impacts the mental health things. So even in cases with like SRA or other sexual abuse, if you've got repressed memories, you'll still feel those emotions, you'll still feel the trauma aspect of it. You might have PTSD or CPTSD, but you won't know why, and you won't have the memories to work through to kind of really get to the bottom of that. So yeah, we need to change the story. So basically, by doing that, we need to connect to our inner child. So the first thing we want to do is kind of designate ourselves as the growing up that we are now in this moment, as someone in a caring capacity. So it could be, you can be a parent, you could call yourself a best friend, you can call yourself a nurse, whatever feels comfortable to you. And you're going to look back and in on those inner children, those memories, the inner children, the parts of you that went through the abuse, and you're going to connect to them as the adult you are now. So you're going to, effectively what you're doing is allowing them to speak. So by you looking at the memories and facing them, and whatever does come up, and working with that inner child and comforting the inner child and telling them that it's not their fault, whatever's going on in the moment. You can even pull them out the memory in some cases. You're going to tell them everything you wish you'd have been told at the time. You can even stop the abuser doing what they're doing within that memory. So you come in as the adult, you stop them doing it, you tell them to stop, and then you take that child out. So there is lots of different ways of doing it really. Just kind of go along with what you feel guided with. So you're changing the story around it, and then by doing that, that inner child part of you is now starting to realise that these things weren't their fault. That then has a knock-on effect into us in this present moment, because we are one and the same ultimately. So then that starts helping us then to start healing, coming out of the depression, anxiety, things like that, getting more centered, learning about ourselves, who we are, what our core beliefs are, what we value, all those kind of things, and you slowly start integrating all those parts, because we all have fractured parts. If we've been through trauma, we've got a fractured part. It's not always about mind control or MK Ultra. We can have splintered parts out there from our soul, from past lives and things. So we can do past life healing and integrate those parts of our soul that are missing and splintered off. And that brings us all back into oneness. So other spiritual concepts you can use, as I say, is losing the blame, shame and guilt for everything. So if you're starting to...
Playing from laptop DJs.
I'm just getting a call, hang on. If you're starting on your journey, you're about to embark on this, because it is a long road, it does take commitment, when you think you're ready to start facing these head on, you need to be prepared for that. So you're drawing a line in the sand ultimately. Everything you did previously, even if it was wrong, if you accept that it was wrong and accept what was wrong about what happened, you can leave the blame, shame and guilt behind. You're starting from a clean slate. If you then do go on to do these things again, you heal those toxic parts of you, which we all have in the beginning until we learn about this stuff. And we don't always realise that we are acting in a toxic way sometimes. So these are all things as well that will come up that we need to heal. So we're leaving all that in the past, as I say, losing all the blame, shame and guilt around that. We're agreeing from this moment on we will never do that again. If we didn't like the outcome of it, if we felt bad afterwards, those kind of things. So we're forgiving ourselves, because we always have to forgive and love first. And that's where the idea comes from of being your parent or your best friend, because then it kind of changes your perspective, where you're coming from a more loving angle rather than the angle that you've been probably doing your entire life of beating yourself up, blaming yourself for everything, thinking there's something wrong with you, and not seeing that it's actually the people around you and it's not you. So once we start losing these layers of things, that again brings us back into oneness. It brings in the healing, starts healing that depression, anxiety and things like that. And then we can move forward with that clean slate then of the person that we want to be, the person we would have been had we not been through these traumas. So I'm just checking my notes. So another effective way of doing this is also creating like a healing garden or a house. So the idea with this one is you create this within your mind. This is more for mind control survivors. So you're creating a place within your mind, and it can be a garden with angels in it or anything else around you that makes you feel comforted and loved and safe. That's the ultimate thing, is feeling safe. You could also use a house. I did originally when I started off doing this, I used a house. So I had like a big log cabin in the woods, trees all around, water out the front. I had everything in this house, everything I've always wanted throughout my entire life. So all my parts at each age that I kind of took out of the memories and placed in this house where they were safe, ready for them to integrate, because this is the idea, while they're there, you're working on other things, they will start integrating back into one. But you've got them all in the one place and safe, so there's not this constant conflict going off. Things like that. So yeah, you have everything you want. Like I had chocolate milkshake on tap, sweets, all my favourite toys that I ever wanted in there that I'd never had. I had those kind of things. Proper made up bedrooms, with fairy lights and teddies and just the way you imagine it should have been, but you probably didn't have that as a child, especially if you went through SRA and other abuse. Parents don't tend to do that kind of thing. So yeah, you can have this in your house, and your inner childs are now getting taken out of those memories, out of those torture chambers really that they've been stuck in all that time, and they're now in this house where they can roam free. They're with the other parts of us which do all get on because it's happy and loving within this house, so you can do it that way. So you've got somewhere then for the inner child that you're taking from that memory and healing. You've got somewhere for them to go in the beginning stages. It just kind of helps your mind kind of see a pattern of what you're doing here. So you can visualize, sense or feel your inner child. you can comfort your inner child, you can visualise giving them hugs, things like that. You can also do that to yourself. This is also quite grounding if you are going through quite a bad flashback. You can kind of do this and bring you back into the moment. You need to keep reminding yourself all the time, because when you go through these flashbacks, they feel as though they're happening in the moment, and they're not. You're in this moment, you are safe. You know, if you put yourself in a bedroom or something where you know you're not going to be disturbed, you know, your doors are locked, whatever it is, in this moment, you are safe. And while you're going through that memory, you're not reliving it. You're just experiencing it, the emotion side of what you felt then. You're finally facing it, and by doing that, you're able then to release it, you know, by comforting yourself, as I said, and reframing that story that it wasn't your fault, you didn't deserve it, that kind of thing. Breath work is another good one when you're feeling quite ungrounded and unsettled with these memories. So you're breathing in for 3, hold, and you're breathing out for 3. And when you breathe out, visualise or feel like you're blowing out all the negative energies. And this is also important to do whenever you move an altar or a part into the garden or the house, or even if you're just working with it in the moment. You know, you haven't been through the mind control aspect, you're just doing a normal healing. You don't need to use the house thing for that. That part of you, once you comfort them and tell them what they needed to hear, they will naturally integrate back in anyway, and you'll become whole that way. So yeah, by doing the breath work, you're releasing that negative energy as well that comes along with this, because everything is spiritual, even if you're not aware of it. So when we hold traumas within the body, we're holding energy within the body, which is heavy and dense. This is what causes aches and pains. It can cause autoimmune diseases, all sorts, fibromyalgia, that one that I never know how to say. You know, it causes all things like this because this energy is stored within the body. So we need to get the energy moving as well and releasing that as we heal our mind. We're healing our energy as well and getting it all flowing again and fully connected back into source and back into our heart, which is ultimately the goal. You can also use guided meditation. I know especially with SRA and mind control survivors, it is hard for us to go into meditation, but you can just sit quietly, close your eyes if you can, and just breathe and let what comes to you, or work through anything, any emotions that you want to release, releasing them to the universe now. Or as I say, the guided meditation you can use, which kind of helps you then keep focus within the meditation and at least go through the things, whether it's healing or protection you're calling in or whatever, and you've got kind of a guide there to help you, and your mind's not running away, as can often happen with dissociation. Treat yourself regularly, pampers. You can have ritual baths, which are like baths with, I put lavender, a few drops of lavender, essential oil in, and rose essential oil. I put Himalayan rock salt in it to cleanse my energy and my aura. I light some candles, I get some crystals, and I just relax in that bath. And sometimes I'll put on, well actually all the time, I will put on meditation music when I'm doing that, so I can just really relax. You should do that for 20 minutes and that'll clear all your energy as well. It will help settle and calm you and bring you back into centre. And you know, you're really learning to pamper and love yourself as you go through this process, and that's what's going to pull you out of it. So it's really important to do that. So with the energy clearing, you can use a healer such as myself or anyone else you might know. If you are a survivor of SRA or mind control, make sure you are dealing with someone that knows what they're doing, because there are like alarms, booby traps, things like that people need to, healers and things need to be aware of. You also do as well. So another thing you can do whenever you're about to do any healing work with an inner child is say you're in control of your subconscious. So you can tell your subconscious that you deactivate and release all alarms, booby traps, anything like that, any tripwires, anything. You disable them all now, you stop them from recreating, and then you go in and help that inner child. If you realise it's a program running, like, which would be something you don't inherently believe in, but this is on loop in your head, you'll realise that's a program. So you can ask to clear, dismantle and dissolve all programs, anything holding it in its place, anything that allows it to recreate, and you're asking for all that to be destroyed now. So encompass that into the healing of the inner child aspect too, and that just makes sure that you're not going to send yourself into chaos when you're kind of healing these different parts. So begin seeing the memories as puzzle pieces is the best thing I can suggest. So in your mind, if you are visual, you can kind of, or just imagine puzzle pieces appearing at first. Don't try and piece anything together, just let them all appear. And as that happens, they will naturally start coming together anyway and fitting into place. And then you will then start building your timeline of the truth of what actually happened to you, which is ultimately what we're doing. And because by going back to the past and healing that, we can create the future we really want and not have to keep going through these cycles of suffering and, just the endless shit, basically. So, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so building a picture. So then you'll naturally start creating that timeline, but don't hold on to anything too much, because the other thing with MK Ultra is, and trauma-based mind control, they have also put false memories in there and scrambled certain things up. This can even be down to years. So you might grow up thinking something happened 1 year, to realise once you get into your memories more that actually no, it was this year, and they've changed the years to confuse you even more. So when you're going back, it's a lot harder to piece together too, because now you've got to like really dig deep and figure out the years these things you're remembering actually happened, and you'll have to pull in other things to help you with that. You know, the things that you do remember, that you do know were true and happened at the time. I found music helped me a lot with that, knowing the kind of music I was into at the time, such as a-ha, Take On Me was quite a big one in my childhood and remembering, and that came out in 1986, so that allowed me then to narrow down sort of a timeline of things, memories that I was getting, and where they kind of slotted into place. Another song was Running Up That Hill, Kate Bush. Again, I was going through something at that time, and it allowed me again to narrow down the time scale of when this actually occurred. And these things are quite important. And spirit, if you're working with spirit, will kind of, they'll keep prompting you until you figure out what it is about a certain memory. They will keep bringing it up until you figure out what they want you to see in it. It is very much like detective work. If you have been through this, I will say you're probably empath or highly sensitive, in which case this is actually part of your purpose in life. By healing from this, we can then help others heal and come out of it. We can raise awareness to it, which makes it harder for them to then carry on doing what they're doing with the mind control and things. Anything really that you've been through that is really traumatic, even having your kids taken by social care, you've been through that system. You can then use that as focus and purpose and drive to help you keep moving forward, but help other people see what goes on within this sort of area. So people start waking up to it and seeing and losing this whole stigma thing that child services are there purely to help children that are abused, because that really is not the case. If you look at it, more children that are abused end up dying because social or child services haven't done anything, whereas other families are destroyed and mental health's going up, suicide rates are going up, because they're going in and taking the children that don't need taken because they're easier to sell in adoption or trafficking and things like that. And this is actually the reality of things that people need to realise. So you can use what happened to you to pull yourself out of that darkness. Say to yourself, I'm not letting you do this to me, I'm better than this. And then helping other people do the same. So you're empowering everybody. And by doing that, you're empowering yourself too. You know, we don't need to be a doormat for anybody. We grew up with that as a child. We're now an adult. We have a choice. We can work with what we've got and fix it and, you know, help others and make it our purpose. Or we can continue suffering and giving them what they want ultimately, because revenge at the end of the day, recovery is the best revenge, is what I'm saying there. So yeah, you're going to build these pieces back together anyway, and as I say, don't hold on too tightly, because you may find that you've created one timeline, everything seems to slot into place, but then this new memory comes that actually moves the timeline somewhat. So again, it could be by years, or it could be like, oh, it didn't actually happen that way, it happened this way. And you know, you just kind of being a detective, really seeing into it. You're become like the observer in the life you had, so you're detaching, and that really helps with the emotions. You're not always going to be able to do it that way. Sometimes you will feel like those emotions and the traumas of it completely consume you, and you're never going to get better, and you feel more depressed now than you did before. But astrology plays a lot into that as well, with energies and things. The planets, and moons, like new moon, full moon especially, they'll kind of heighten things around that time and give us that feeling. So it's important to work with those aspects and learn that as well, because then that will help you then to see that, you know, you're not going backwards, you're not falling into this hellhole forever. It's the energies affecting you in this moment, and this too shall pass, and it will pass. Sometimes it can take minutes, hours, sometimes a couple of days, but it does inevitably shift. As you heal as well, it is in layers of a trauma, an onion, so as you heal one thing, you might not fully integrate that part if there's been a lot there that you need to remember and a lot that's happened. So you'll go off, do another thing, heal that'll make you that bit stronger. Then you might come back to this one. There'll be another aspect there that was a bit harder to handle than the last one that you saw, but you're now stronger because you've just healed this, and it kind of makes an up level. So each trauma you're getting stronger off, you'll revisit another one which will be more in depth, but you'll also be stronger and more able to deal with it. And by understanding what's happening as well, that helps too, which is why I wanted to make this video really about what to expect, because it can be quite hard when you feel like you're just stumbling through the dark, going round in circles, nothing seems to be working, and you know, your mind can get carried away, and we don't want that. We need to stay in control so we can kind of navigate this and, you know, make sure the ego doesn't go into chaos, you know, thinking we're reliving it, because the mind's such a powerful thing. So let's see. So know you're creating the truth within yourself and the universe, because people do need to know that this stuff goes on, that it is more prevalent than what people realise or sometimes are led to believe. because it's all about shining the light in the dark and exposing. But it's not about, don't start getting into sides either. You want to get into a balance. This is all about you now and you healing. So yes, what they did was wrong, but we're not going to focus on that so much. We want to get into the middle of balance, and become centered. Do the centered path. You don't want to be left or right. You want to be straight down the middle. So they fear us. That's another reason they do what they do, especially those of us higher up within mind control. That's why they do it, and that's why they keep us going. Because as soon as we come into our powers, they're pretty stuffed on a spiritual level. It's all to do with timelines and everything as well. And the more you get into spirituality, I'll also make videos on this as well at some point. But the more you'll see about timelines and how vibration affects the timeline that you're on, which is why we heal. It raises the frequency, which raises the timeline, and it kind of keeps us out of those lower, darker realms. But I will make a separate video on that. So I think I will leave it there for that video. If you've got any questions, do let me know. My details will be in the description box below on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you can contact me there. This video has gone over as always, so yeah, YouTube, my other platforms, I'll do a video separately. So that is it for this video. I hope that made sense. I hope that helps people get a better understanding of what you're doing and where you're moving forwards with this. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Enjoy your day.